Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we're going to check out something again that's not a dinosaur, but we are going to jump back into the How to Train Your Dragon line, as there is another version of the Deadly Nadder out. This is the Fire Blast version. Now, I don't know how different this one is from the version we had previously reviewed. The only thing I can tell straight away is that it obviously is a bit larger than the other one, so I'm going to basically unbox this here in just a few seconds, and then we're going to bring the other one in and we'll try to compare and contrast the two just to see if there are any real differences between the two outside of an increased size and the action feature, again now with a Fire Blast feature to it. But as far as the packaging goes, pretty much the same, as usual when it comes to the How to Train Your Dragon line. If you look at the back, you have a little bit of a sneak peek here of the figure, and also again you can see the Plasma Sounds Toothless. So I don't know if that's the exact same dragon we had reviewed, the other Toothless, because it says Plasma Sounds, but the other one was Plasma Blast. Maybe there's a different Toothless out that I don't even realize yet, so I don't know, maybe I'll have to look into that one. But you can get a good shot here again of the figure on the back of the packaging as well. So let's go ahead, pop this one out, and we'll check it out. So there we go. There are both of our Deadly Nadder figures, and I will say there are definitely some differences in pretty much every way. I can see, again, quite a bit of difference between the two. Even when it comes to the way that the head sculpt looks, it looks like there's just more detail, maybe a little bit more impressive detail on the newer version. Also, again, it's obviously increased in size, but even those like spikes leading off of the back of the head look a little bit different on the new version. There's no saddle on the new version, a little bit of a bulkier body. So I think it's pretty evident just looking at the two straight away that they are quite different and they are not the exact same sculpt. So we can immediately put that to rest and take the smaller one out. Also, you already got a little bit of a comparison when it comes to the size difference between the bigger one and the smaller one. And then we'll bring in our dragon here for a closer look. So once you start here in the head sculpt, you can see it looks really good. Again, just like the previous one, the eye really impresses me. I think the eyes look great on these figures. You have pretty much the same variation of color here in the face with some of those like pinkish tones as well as some white or like light blue. Like there's just a little bit of variation of color that you see kind of around the eye area. But specifically, one thing that I can appreciate about this one is how good the actual texturing and everything looks on the head of this one. I feel like it's actually quite a bit nicer than it was on the other version. Even moving up into the horn, the detail in the horn here looks a little bit better if you ask me. The horns also out here as you lead out kind of curve, whereas the other ones didn't quite curve like that, which is pretty cool. You can see the lower jaw looks fairly decent when it comes to the skin texture, maybe a little muted here and there. One thing that is also on this one that was not on the other one is a very obvious like screw right there, whereas the other one had that more concealed. So, when it comes to some of this figure being a little bit of an upside, there are also a few downsides like that. Or at least one downside. I haven't really found too many so far. We do have maybe an articulated jaw, yeah, so it does articulate a little bit. Probably has to do with the action feature. Yeah, so when you push this button on the back of the tail, it basically makes the jaw move, and that's probably how we are going to launch our missile, but unfortunately, the jaw never actually fully closes, which is a bit of a bummer. But again, everything looks pretty decent. You can see the teeth. There's a little sloppiness when it comes to the paintwork there on the teeth, but for the most part, they look okay, not half bad. So not a terrible looking head sculpt, actually pretty nice looking head sculpt, especially when it comes to how good the detail looks there moving through it. As you move back into the neck is pretty straightforward, out, and you can see again the blue and lighter tone basically battling back and forth as we move along, just like we had seen on the previous versions of this figure. The skin texture continues to look fairly decent, but maybe slightly muted. Not really. Maybe a little bit muted on the lower side, but it seems to get a little more vibrant as you move up into the back of the dragon. You do have those spikes moving along the back as well, again painted out pretty nicely with that lighter tone. We do, of course, also have that same patterning and everything here for the wings. We no longer have those real feel rubber wings. These ones are definitely not the same, as far as like flexibility or material or anything like that, but we have the same style of sculpt and same style of coloration as you lead out into the wings, which is pretty decent. You can also see again that there is that kind of like extra coloration added into the material and everything with like a speckling that you see moving through the figure. You do of course see the wing over here as well. They do have articulation. They can go up and down. So you can see that right there. And then of course can swivel. I can already tell you that pretty much straight away. The skin texture on the underside of the wing looks really good as well, but no variation of color down there. The body does seem a bit bulkier on this one compared to the other version. The other version just seemed a little bit more slender. The leg looks really good when it comes to the fine detail. Look at the muscle definition and all of the fine skin detail here. That looks super nice. The kneecap right there. Again, the scales and everything look really good. The foot sculpt also looks quite nice. And we can see the claws again. They do have a gloss coat, but sadly no actual nail paint, which I really would have liked. But the foot sculpt over there looks very nice as well. And then you lead out, and again, it continues to be kind of bulky as you lead along, but we have that lighter tone disappearing as we lead out into the tail. And then once we lead into the tail, we have all of these, again, almost like spikes or quills or something leading the entire rest of the way out here into the tail. And even the tail does look different from the other one. I think the most obvious similarity is the positioning of the legs are kind of similar, and the way that the dragon is kind of like extended out, which you can even see tensing in the neck, showing that off. But this one specifically should have that look because it is kind of launching missiles, which I guess is, you know, kind of like a fire blast, so it would have its head, you know, extended out and everything. But it looks pretty nice, honestly. Again, I actually quite like this version. As far as the Fire Blast missiles go, you do get 3 of them, and you can see they are a little bit of a translucent yellowish tone, and they're fairly decently sculpted. So we're going to go ahead and put one in the mouth if we can get it in there. Try to figure out what direction we go to actually slide it in, or maybe I just need to find the spot because I'm not doing a good job. Oh yeah, I was totally in the wrong spot. There we go. So now it's all loaded up in there, and let's try to shoot this without losing it. There we go. You can see it shoots that missile out quite nicely. Again, you've got 3 all together. And we shot it again. It doesn't work perfect. I will say there's a few times I've pressed the button and it just did not go. So it's not absolutely perfect as far as the way they've created it, but it does work. Just, again, it fell on its face. Takes a little bit of work, I guess, at times to get that to work, because I don't know if I just pushed them in too far or what my problem is, but for some reason they just don't want to go all the time. Also, once the wings are up, as you can see, the balance isn't the greatest. Maybe I have to put the wings down to kind of balance this one out. Maybe the balance just isn't great all over. Oh, there we go. Maybe I just needed to balance it forward a little bit. Now let's put the wings back up so it's out of the way. I can get my measurement. Yes, definitely working better now. So I just had it in an awkward position. As far as this size goes, for a length from the snout to the tail, about 11¼ inches, or around 28, maybe slightly over, closing in on 28.5 centimeters. And the highest point at this point is definitely the wings, which are about 5¾ inches, or a hair over 14.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Fire Blast Deadly Nadder, and you can see again that this one does have a pretty decent size to it, a little bit bigger than some of the other dragons in the line. And for a few more comparisons with some of the other dragons, I don't feel like we need to run through all of them, but here is Rumblehorn next to our Deadly Nadder, showing you that again, the Rumblehorn is a little bit smaller. And of course, when we bring in Skrill, we can see that Skrill is significantly smaller than this version of the Deadly Nadder. We have everybody's favorite Chonkster here, as we have Gronkle next to our Deadly Nadder, showing you that again, pretty significant difference in size. And then we have one version here of Toothless. We have the $15 version that does usually come with Hiccup, and you can see again, they're actually kind of similar in size, but just a bit more body mass on the Deadly Nadder. So this brand new How to Train Your Dragon Deadly Nadder Fire Blast version is pretty cool. Again, sculpt-wise, it's really well done, and I feel like the detail is a bit more vibrant on this one than the previous version I had reviewed. So that's definitely a plus. It just overall is more impressive when it comes to how nice the detail stands out and how nice the skin texture looks. It also is fun to have a little bit of a different version again again, lacking the saddle on the back of the neck, and also a little bit more playability with this one, as we have a fun action feature that does launch the fire missiles, I guess you could say, something that kids will certainly enjoy and does add a fun element of play to it. But overall, again, it does feature not only the action feature, but some okay articulation, as we have leg articulation, wing articulation, as well as, of course, the jaw articulation, which does coincide with the action feature. And there is actually a swivel in the tail on top of everything, which I don't think I actually had shown you guys, but it's right where you connect the tail, it does swivel. And then again, the paintwork is pretty decent for this, not anything to absolutely go crazy over, especially when it comes to the way the patterning looks in the wings, which I think looks a little bit amateurish and not really that high quality, but it is a kid's toy, so that's not really that shocking, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But without a doubt, a fun figure worth picking up if you ask me. I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine from Amazon.com, so make sure you check that link, grab this if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.